Well, protesters and federal officials are blaming each other for escalating the situation in Los Angeles. Here's a closer look at what happened before the feds were called in, though details are still emerging. A small number of people came together at each location to record the officers. More than 100 people gathered to protest at the LA Ice Center. LAPD declared the protest unlawful, and there were clashes between demonstrators and authorities. There were many clashes involving flashbangs and tear gas. Well, the troubles continue in California, the state suing President Trump for deploying the National Guard in Los Angeles. News 4's Andrea Esparza joins us now from the live desk with the latest details. Andrea?
Yeah, Shelby, normally the president needs a governor's approval to take control of the state's National Guard unless there's an invasion, a rebellion, or a serious threat to enforcing federal law. Well, that's under Title 10 of the U.S. Code. In California, though, several lawmakers, including the governor, say there was no such threat in this case and argue the deployment only made things much worse. We'll take a live look at the riots that are still happening right now in Los Angeles. This is a live look there. And over the weekend, around 56 people were arrested, and protesters against the federal immigration raids were ordered to leave downtown, but they refused to leave. Protests broke out after ICE raids across 3 LA locations on Friday, where dozens were detained. And Governor Newsom called them chaotic federal sweeps meant to meet an arbitrary arrest quota. One arrest grew as President Donald Trump deployed 2,000 troops, bringing the total to LA to about 3,000. Well, Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta plan to sue Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, calling the troop order illegal. Well, Border Czar Tom Homan threatened to arrest Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass if they interfered. Well, Newsom replied, quote, "Tom, arrest me, let's go." Well, he called the move a clear step towards authoritarianism. And Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass also speaking out on the escalation of the raids.
You know, we had been told that he was going to go after violent criminals. It wasn't a drug den, it was a Home Depot. It was places where people are working. So what was the point of doing this? If these random raids were going to happen, then there was going to be the danger of a backlash. And you add on to that the National Guard, and it felt like fuel for a fire that was unnecessary.
Well, it's no longer just the National Guard. Today, the president called for 700 U.S. Marines to temporarily mobilize until more California National Guard troops arrive to Los Angeles, which lawmakers fear will only worsen conditions in the city and say it is excessive. At the live desk, I'm Andrea Esparza. Back to you, Shelby.
Well, President Trump responding to claims made by Governor Newsom and returning to the White House after a weekend at his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows.
Meanwhile, Newsom is feuding with Border Czar Tom Homan. As Andrea was saying, Homan threatened to arrest anyone who obstructs ICE's efforts, including Newsom. Newsom responded by calling Homan a tough guy and daring him to do it. When asked by reporters about this, Trump smiled and said Homan should. Well, ICE protests around the country have gotten the attention of Nevada civil groups and have local law enforcement on high alert for the potential of similar gatherings here in Reno. Today, Will Payne spoke with Reno police and the Nevada ACLU, and he joins us now from downtown Reno with their reaction to the protests.
Yeah, Shelby, 5 years ago, Black Lives Matter protests went from peaceful to violent here in downtown Reno. And in the last 5 years, the Reno Police Department said they've learned a lot from that experience. And if any large-scale protests like the ones that we've seen in California were to make their way up to Reno, they have a plan in place to deal with it. So Reno police officer Chris Johnson says if a bigger crowd were to gather here in downtown and additional assistance was needed, they keep an open dialogue with surrounding agencies like Sparks Police Department and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
Always learning from the different situations that we're involved in to be able to better deploy resources and better protect the people who choose to live or visit here in Reno.
Though Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union, Attar Hazibullah, commended the lawfully acting protesters taken to the streets in Los Angeles and around the country, he emphasized how important it is for them not to turn to violence.
Civil disobedience and civil unrest is not meant to accommodate the government, right? That defeats the entire purpose of having a protest. Maybe you look at most protests that are happening right now nationwide, almost every protest organizer has instructed anybody that's attending, remain peaceful, follow the law, be compliant, which is a message that we reiterate as well.
Coming up at 6:30, all of the full story on the local reaction to the rallies in California, which includes some sound from some local ICE agents. Reporting in downtown, I'm Will Payne. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, Will. And for our local question of the day, we want to hear from you. Are you worried about protests and riots happening here? You can scan the QR code on your screen to vote or head to our website, mynews4.com.